has to be something to be able to overcome asthma. I cannot keep living like this. I started practicing this technique, and then all of a sudden, my asthma disappeared in 4 weeks. It's something that I haven't experienced before ever. What is my soul's purpose, and what am I here to do? He shared how breathwork saved his life when both his parents died. But I truly feel that you need to be lost in order to be found.
Hi, hello, and welcome to the Butterfly Effect podcast. And today in my studio, we have a very special guest. Finally, a person who specializes in the breath work. Because you guys, I know for sure that breath work is something that can help you a lot to improve your mental health, physical health, emotions, balance, pretty much everything. You never thought how actually we're breathing. And today we're going to discuss this topic with Liam, who's a specialist in the breath work. And his main thing is that he helps people to heal from asthma through the breath work. That's actually the journey that he went through himself. And today he's going to share with us his amazing story that I bet you could not predict what this person came through to appear here in my studio today.
Thank you. Thank you, Margarita, for having me on the Butterfly podcast. It is an absolute honor to be able to be here and just share a bit about my story, provide as much value as I can through my knowledge and experience, and hopefully can impact those listening on the other end.
Absolutely. We're going to impact some souls today. And I guess we're also going to do some practical stuff today just to teach people just a super easy, very basic breath techniques for everyday needs. For example, the one that we started our podcast with today, behind the scene, to help reduce the stress. Shall we?
Definitely. So this one is the Physiological Sigh by Dr. Huberman, who's done a lot of studies on this physiological sigh. It's one of the quickest and easiest ways to reduce stress. So when you are feeling heightened throughout your day, or maybe you're going into that meeting and your heart starts beating faster. I literally had to do it just before we get onto this podcast. But essentially what we do is breathe in through the nose and out of the mouth. We want to expand the belly first. So the diaphragm comes out first, comes up into the chest, all the way to the top of our head. And we do a sharp inhale at the top. And then a sigh out the mouth. So we'll do a couple together. In 3, 2, 1. In. Pause. Sharp inhale. And sigh out the mouth. One more, in through the nose. Sharp at the top. And out the mouth. And you only really need a couple to come back into balance, recenter yourself. That will help you make you feel more calm and relaxed throughout your day.
That's amazing. I love it. Because actually, that's one of the biggest requests from my clients, like how to deal with stress. Everyone in today's world is dealing with stress, trying to deal with stress. But we will start from the very beginnings. Now you sit in front of me, all spiritual, having your shit together, having breathwork journeys. But I know that there was a journey of your own before you came to this point. So can you tell me and our viewers today who you were before and who you are right now?
It's a story that I have actually shied away from for a long period of time. And just recently, I've started to really open up about my story, who I am, and the person I am today. Because it all just didn't start off like this. I started off in a blue-collar type family. My parents worked their 9 to 5. We lived in a rough neighborhood, Noble Park in Melbourne, Australia. And when I was born with asthma as a kid. When my mum started to notice breathing difficulties, she rushed me to the hospital to figure out what was actually happening. And they found that my lungs were impaired, meaning that I couldn't breathe functionally. And so they prescribed me something called a nebulizer, which is a breathing machine. It's a tube and a mask that goes over your mouth. And I had to use this in the morning and the nighttime as a baby just to be able to breathe effectively. And it became like a fixture in my routine. If I didn't have it, I couldn't breathe. My mum would then rush me to hospital. And so that was quite hard at a young age. Um, Sport was such a huge part of my life, but I was also limited on what I could and couldn't do because of the asthma that I had. Um, School, I wasn't the brightest kid in school. To be honest, I completely failed school. And there was times that I would be in school and I didn't have the self-belief and confidence within myself. So I would copy the next person next to me because I believed that their answer was better than my answer. And so I moved through school, primary school and high school like that, um, until I got all the way to year 12. And I actually got caught cheating on a test. And that just summed up my whole uh, early childhood, adulthood, about moving through, about how I didn't really have, the self-confidence or self-belief in myself. And it showed me in that time, I was unaware. I wasn't interested in what I was learning about. And it was a time where I had to really, I knew that I had a lot of energy, but I was directing that energy at the wrong things. And so hanging out with the wrong people, um, I remember watching Netflix in school just because I wasn't really interested in what I was actually learning about. And moving through school, uh, I sort of noticed that, okay, I'm good at building relationships and making friends with people. And so as I moved through school, I got to like 18 and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I hit this crossroad and I'm like, okay, uh, what am I good at? Okay, I think I'm good at some maybe communication. I'm going to move into sales because I knew that sales had that communication element about it. But I was like, and I heard that you can make some all right money within sales as well. And so I started working in the city. And from 18 to 22, I was like, I'm just going to put my head down, work really hard, make some good money, and see where it goes. Because I had no idea of what I wanted to do or who I was. And I found that I was trying to be like everyone else to fit in. I was like this chameleon. And so I was earning good money, didn't really know what I wanted to do, was hanging out with people that were older than me, that were like 25, 26, and I was 18, 19 years old working in the city. And my life became a bit like the Wolf of Wall Street. I was living for the weekend. I was indulging in drugs that I shared with management. I was consistently going out from Friday to Sunday, and I found that I was just trying to fill this void within myself. I was empty, I was unhappy, I was unfulfilled with what I was doing. I was making good money, but I found that money wasn't the thing that I was actually going to make me happy. So from 18 to 22, my life was like the Wolf of Wall Street. And I got to a stage when I was 22 and I was like, I hit a moment of like rock bottom. Is I was hanging out with still people that didn't know who they were, didn't know where they were going. And that was just a reflection of my inner world as well, because I didn't know who I am. And so I didn't know where I was going as well. And so I do believe that you are the product of the 5 people that you do surround yourself with. And I got to a moment where I ended up in court. in a fight that happened in a party that my friends at the time were around and I was with them. Now, in that moment, I was really shown through a different lens who I was hanging out with. A fight broke out, a girl's collarbone got broken, um, and it was my friends that were in the fight, and I was in the group at the time. And I tried to pull my friends out of it, and one of my friends actually hit me straight in the face, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, I need to actually leave this scene because this is not healthy at all." And so I remember leaving, and the girl's collarbone that got broken, her mum was a lawyer.
Mm.
So she wrote cases on all four of our friends, and I ended up in a courtroom standing next to a friend at the time. So this was like a rock bottom moment because I was sitting in court, looking behind at my mum and my grandma in court with me, thinking and feeling so disappointed within myself that I had allowed myself to get to this stage. But it's exactly what I needed to see in that moment and experience to make the changes that I needed to in my life. So from that moment forward, I decided that I'm going to go solo. I'm leaving my friends at the time. I'm going to leave the life that I was currently living, and I'm just going to have a look within. Because during this time was exactly when COVID was happening. And COVID was a time that either made or broke you. And for me, COVID really made me and helped me understand who I was on a deeper level. Because I no longer had these external people and these external parties and these external things outside of outside of myself to feel what I really needed to within me. And so I was fortunate enough to meet a girl at the time. She was reading like the self-help books and listening to the inspiring podcasts. And I started picking up these books that she was reading. And the first one I picked up was The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. And I started reading this thing, and I was still working in the city at the time. And I remember I was like, for example, one of the methodologies within the book is the 20-20-20 formula, which is 20 minutes of exercise first thing in your day, 20 minutes of self-reflection, and 20 minutes of learning. So I would wake up, I would listen to some motivational speeches by David Goggins, and I would go for a run at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I started sitting with myself and meditating. And I remember that my mind was just like a washing machine. And I found it so hard just to sit with myself for a minute. But I kept on, even though how uncomfortable it felt. I would start off at 1 minute and I would get to 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, wow, 5 minutes. Great. And then I got to 10 minutes and slowly worked my way up from there. Journaling really helped me as well, get everything that was happening here just on a piece of paper, and I sort of made sense with what was happening in my life. The feelings I was feeling, the emotions I was feeling, because my mind and our mind makes up so much stories, and being able to write down exactly what is happening really helps understand what we're actually going through on a deeper level, is what I found. And then I would implement 20 minutes of learning, whether that's listening to an inspiring podcast or a YouTube video, or maybe just reading a book. And at that time, it was the 5 a.m. Club. And so I started implementing these things in my life. And what I found was this external energy that I was directing at the wrong things, I was actually internally implementing that into my world, and I was experiencing better results. Mentally, physically, emotionally. I then got into construction. And this is where I call this period of my life just throwing shit at the wall and hoping things would stick. Because at this stage, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was still trying to understand myself on a deeper level. And so I started working within the construction industry, helping people achieve their builder's license. And I did this for 3 years. And still working in sales. Since I was in the construction industry, I started to question whether maybe I'll get into property development and start investing into properties. Okay, I'm in like a circle with the right people that are builders, that are property developers, that are construction specialists. Maybe I can learn from these people that are around me. And so I was fortunate enough to have a couple of mentors within that space that taught me property development. And at 21, I invested into my first property. And by 24, I had my second property. And I really thought still at that point that money was going to actually make me happy.
We all do.
And it was still when I invested into my second property that I still felt so empty within myself. And I was like, I'm chasing the wrong thing right now. I'm really trying to find this deeper meaning and this deeper fulfillment. I know I really liked helping people, but I just didn't know how. So as I started to get clearer on who I was, my interests, what my values were, my morals, I started to get clearer on what the direction that I was moving into. And the picture started to get clearer as time went on. But I had to look within first for that to be then a reflection outside of myself. And I ended up starting up my own small business with a business partner of mine, also doing registration. Again, I just wasn't fulfilled with what I was doing. I was like, okay, cool, that served that purpose in this time. I have to keep looking within. I have to keep looking within. And it got to a stage where I was like, I'm going to do some deep traveling within myself. I'm going to explore the world and see what I'm going to find. I did Europe 7 weeks. I did a silent retreat here in Bali for 6 days of no talking, no technology. I lived in a treehouse in Thailand. But before I go into that story, I do want to share something that was so transformational in my life that really helped me find what my purpose is. And through this journey of my life, I was still severely suffering with asthma. I moved from the nebulizer as a baby that I had to use in the morning and night to my inhalers. Now, I was still so reliant on them. Why? Because I played sport. I played football, I played cricket, I played athletics, hockey, tennis, you name it, I played it. I wasn't very good in school, but when it came to physical activity, I was good at that. But again, my asthma was so exercise induced. And so I had to use my inhaler like a ball and chain on me. And I was in this constant state of fear. If I didn't have it, I was screwed. And there was a couple of times where I didn't have it. And I was like, I didn't know what I was doing at this stage, but I was like, I'm just going to focus on just breathing. And I just would do this. And I remember I'm like, I'm close to home. I've only got 10 minutes to go. Just keep breathing. And I just repeated this and prayed that I would make it home in time just to get my inhaler. That became a lifeline. It got to a stage when I was 25. And again, I hit this crossroad and I'm like, there has to be something to be able to overcome asthma. I cannot keep living like this. I want to start living with confidence within myself and in my body, and I want to take back control. I'm grateful I had a friend at the time who just studied breathwork. And he's like, man, try this. And there was a specific protocol that's backed by Professor Buteyko. And Buteyko in the 1950s helped a fair few people with asthma. A fair few people is probably lightly, he helped many, many, many people. And I started practicing this technique, and then all of a sudden, my asthma disappeared in 4 weeks. It was gone. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't need to use this inhaler anymore. Okay, well, let's forget about that. But I've been the type of person, when I achieve something, I just move to the next thing and I don't really acknowledge what I do. And this was one of those cases. So as I'm going through this inner journey with exploring the world, but also exploring myself in the same token, I sat with ayahuasca, a beautiful plant medicine that connects you to altered states of consciousness. And I sat with Mother Ayahuasca not one time, not 2 times. It was about 5 times that I've sat with her. But through this journey, it's not an easy journey. It's like you face all your trauma, all your fears, all your insecurities, and like you pull it out from the root. So you really have to have a deep sense of emotional and mental fortitude to be able to face your demons and be able to move through them. And there was a fair few demons that I had to face to be able to move through in order to, which took me to my last ceremony. And it was the 5th one. And I remember my intention writing down in my journal was, what is my soul's purpose and what am I here to do? And as I'm sitting with this intention, I'm meditating on the intention. We go through the ceremony, and within the first hour, it just like washes over me. And I see myself in a movie healing people of asthma through breathwork. And I was like, whoa. There's so much happening in that time. But it was this sense of meaning and fulfillment and deep desire that I was looking within me. I touched on before, I wanted to help people, but I just didn't know how. And this was this confirmation that this is something that runs deep into my soul's purpose, and this is what I'm here to do, to share with the world. So once I received that, I went through this deep rabbit hole of studying breathwork, the human body, the science, the spirituality side of things. And I've learned from Professor Buteyko, Patrick McEwen, Johannes from Breathless, Sky Bear. I went through this deep rabbit hole and I actually found something that I'm genuinely interested in. And this is the thing, I really believe that everyone has their own gifts and talents. And it's up to us to discover what those gifts and talents are and then work within our gifts and talents. Because that's when we're truly working within our strengths. We're doing what we love. We're doing things our way. And that's what I believe the whole purpose of life is, finding, for doing things what you love and doing it in a way that's purposeful for you. Because purpose doesn't happen outside of ourselves. It actually happens within. We live each day with purpose, and we're living with purpose. And so once I found that, this is when I booked a one-way ticket to Thailand, trained Muay Thai, lived with locals, lived in a treehouse, and just developed an asthma program. And I would just put my full focus in there. I was living on an island that only had 5,000 people and one 7-Eleven. And yes, that really showed me exactly what I wanted to do. I still didn't know how to do it, because we can never connect the dots looking forwards. We can only connect the dots looking backwards. But I felt it. I felt that I had something that was tangible that worked on me, and I believe deep within my soul it could help someone else as well.
That's impressive story, I can say. I was just sitting here like watching a movie while you were talking, especially, talking slowly with even taking meaningful breath in between of your words. So it actually shows that you're practicing what you're preaching, right? Um, Thank you so much for just putting it into a very like logical line of events happening one after another. This shows a lot that we actually absolutely cannot predict where the life will bring us. How would you imagine just working in the big city of Melbourne that in a couple of years you'll be living in the tree house and hunting that one 7-Eleven on the island? So I would, before we also discuss how exactly you went to teaching breath work, what kind of magic happened in your life, because once we finding our purpose and following our path, the world wants to help us. So it brings us opportunities and people to execute our purpose. But before that, let's go a bit backwards, because I believe that people who've been listening to your story, some of them might feel aligned on the first part of the story. When you're lost, when you're at your lowest, when you're struggling with the issues, because we all like the hero story, but the struggle part is the juiciest part. So the questions that I've got while listening your story is, you said that you've been raised in a pretty good family, right? How your parents reacted on you, let's say going through the school, but just like barely going through the school, and then choosing the job of just sales, which is literally I want to make money kind of job. What was their opinions? What kind of life they wanted for you?
Mm. My parents, I love so dearly, have always been the biggest supporters in my world. And they knew that school wasn't for me. Personally, what I was learning through school, I just wasn't interested in that. Um, and it's put on us by sometimes our parents and society that we need to exactly know what we want to do when we hit 18 years old. When that's unrealistic, we haven't really lived a day in this life to be a full, true adult. How are we supposed to know what we actually want to do for the rest of our lives?
Absolutely.
And we put this unnecessary pressure and stress on our plate that sometimes come from external factors like our parents, like society. Like we need to know exactly what we need to do. When really, I feel like this world that we're currently living in is just trial and error. Is as you experience new things, you find out what works and doesn't work. And so if you're in a stage where you do feel a bit lost, you're trying to find this meaning and fulfillment within yourself, is the answers are always within. And so we need to put ourselves in environments with people, but also sometimes just in solitude to actually listen within. And it can be the hardest thing, right? To sit by yourself and meditate. You know, as human beings, sometimes a lot of the time we look for the easier option. If we told someone, hey, take this pill that's going to help with your alleviate your depression, or sit and meditate for 15 minutes, a lot of people will say, oh, just give me that pill because it's actually going to help me a lot quicker than the meditation, right? So it does take a lot more mental resilience and emotional resilience to be able to challenge yourself, to not listen to the story, because a lot of the time that story is just the ego trying to protect ourselves. It's like, oh, it happens in breathwork, but when I hold sessions for people, it's like this story of, oh my God, am I breathing right? What am I going to eat after? Should I have coffee after? Like whatever that story is that plays in your mind, because it plays on my mind too as I start breathing. And I'm like, nope. And what really helps me is, can I be the observer of my thoughts and not attach myself to my thoughts as they arise? So going back to your question, first step is really quietening down in a space and in a time so you can just actually listen within. Maybe asking yourself questions This is what really helps me, is asking myself questions. And if the answer doesn't arrive straight away, that's okay. Keep sitting with myself and answer those questions and remain open for the opportunity and possibility for that message to come through.
Mhm. Remember in that story when you were in the court that you consider right now being your lowest point, what exactly were going through your mind back then? Why was this feeling of disappointment?
Mm, it was, I'm a failure. I'm a disappointment to my family. What I'm doing in my life isn't actually working because I've got myself into this situation where I'm in a courtroom next to a friend at the time that just showed me who I was as a person. I was very unhappy and unfulfilled in my life and doing things that were making me just a bad, like in that time, I felt like I was a piece of shit.
And that lowest point became your turning point, basically, in your transformation. How to think, if you wouldn't reach that bottom, would you change?
If I didn't reach that bottom, no, I wouldn't have changed. I would have still stayed the same person, operating in a space of negativity, because everything was just that's how I looked at my inner world. My inner world was like, yeah, I didn't have the confidence, the belief, the trust in myself. So I was trying to be like everyone else to fit in. And being like everyone else to fit in, it's like you're going against or I was going against
Nature.
yeah, my innate nature on who I was as a person, because I wanted to be liked by other people. I wanted to people please. And really, that's the path that it took me down.
And that's absolutely the equation of how to lose yourself. You go against your nature, you betray yourself, you betray your beliefs, you betray who you are. And every time you do so, you're going further and further from who you really are. On some point, you go that so far that you can't even hear the voice of your soul, the voice of your intuition, your inner voice. And then when you're asking questions, who am I? What should I do? Where should I move in life? You're asking questions, but there is silence inside.
Mm.
That's the exact recipe of how to lose yourself.
But I truly feel that you need to be lost in order to be found.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah. Why? Because if we don't actually lose ourselves within ourselves, how are we actually going to find what we actually enjoy?
I like this Buddhist idea that we live the whole life just to remember who we really are. Not to create yourself, but to remember who you are. Like it's always inside of you. It's like a hidden knowledge that you have to unpack layer by layer by going through experiences. And as you said, just trying and failure and trying and seeing, do I like it? Do I want this? Am I choosing this? Me, not someone else that I'm copying or that I put some authority to on another people or society or someone else.
Mm.
But can people change from the state of comfort without this dramatic hitting the bottom, losing yourself, going through the war or something? Can you really change by just like waking up one day and I want to be a better person or I want to be a different person?
I think there's two sides to the coin, because we can always experience deep transformational change where we're in a state of discomfort. Because if nothing changes in our life. So this discomfort that we feel through challenge, through trauma, through adversity, that's what makes us a lot of the time. That is you can call it like the impact for the change, maybe that we need to see and then move into. But also, if you are comfortable, yeah, it can also be quite dangerous being comfortable. If you have a lot of money coming in, it's like here in Bali, some people that I speak to, they've set up fantastic businesses. They've got money coming in and they don't need to worry about working every day. And that money coming in gives them that sense of comfort, security. but then they get caught in this bubble of being in complete flow and not doing any purposeful work in their life. Now, am I saying that you need to do purposeful work every single day? No. Sometimes the purpose of life is maybe just sitting on a beach and reading a book, and that gives you purpose and meaning and fulfillment and joy and happiness. But sometimes when you sit on that beach for too long, months and months and maybe years, eventually you're like, no, I want to do something with my life that not only helps my life, but also helps someone else's life in turn.
I feel like a general purpose of every living being in this world is evolution. Just moving forward, developing anything, making something better. So as you were describing those people, I also met a lot of them who have very comfortable life, who achieve their goals. And on some point, yes, you achieve your goals, so you really deserve a good rest. So you deserve to enjoy the fruits of your labor. But then there is this like little step across the line when you just really move from living to existing and just procrastinating and just literally freezing yourself in time and space, partially because of the fear of losing what you've built, losing what you have. So you start to be afraid of making a step, taking a risk, and you're just frozen. On that point, my favorite mechanisms turn on. The mechanism when the universe leads you to where you need to go, but like pushing you a little bit. So it gives you signals, little signs here and there. But if you're ignoring the signs, the universe will show you in a very dramatic way where you need to go. It will start taking things from you. It will start taking health from you. If you don't want to move, well, you will be literally unable to move your body in space. And people ignoring those signs, thinking it's just a consequence, right? But I know for sure, because I've heard so many stories already, that if you're living conscious life, you can actually see those signs. Like the world is navigating you. It trying to tell you, it trying to bring you to the point where you actually can bring your greatest value, use your potential, serve your purpose. Just don't fight it. Just go with the flow, right?
And I think like a main point that you're touching on is the power of intention. Is having an intention, and I want to share a story of intention. This is how powerful intentions actually can be. So when I had studied breathwork, acquired a couple of qualifications, I still wasn't completely confident in going out and holding space for souls. And so all I knew, this intention that I put out was like, I know that I just want to do breath work. I would love to do breath work worldwide and see where that goes. And so like I sat on this intention and I just meditated on this intention. And it was 2024 in January. And I get a call from a friend and he's like, man, you got to go to this guy, Big Joe's breathwork event. And I'm like, number one, how big is this guy, Big Joe, to name himself Big Joe? And number two is I hadn't received breathwork in a really long time. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. So I lived in Narre Warren and it was all the way in Essendon, an hour and 15 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I get to this studio, I walk up the stairs and I look at this guy, Big Joe, and he's literally nearly the size of the roof. And I'm like, man, you weren't lying about your height. Hey,
You're really big.
yeah, you're really big. And he's like, yeah, man, it's easy for Ubers to find me. He's like, what's your experience with breath work? I'm like, I got a little experience. And he's like, cool. And we go through this deep breath work journey, Margarita. And it's something that I haven't experienced before ever. My body was like levitating off the ground. I was able to see my pineal gland. And this sense of like Bali I felt within my whole body. And Joe opened up the space at the end and he said, who wants to share? And I was the first one to put up my hand. And I explained that to him. And he came up over to me after and he's like, dude, what's your story? And I shared with him asthma, suffering with it my whole life, and found breath work and healed it in 4 weeks. And he shared how breath work saved his life when both his parents died.
Mm.
And he was just doing breath work in his room, and it was really this anchor to get him out of this deep, dark place that he was in. Now, Joe, he was big, 6'8". He was a former NFL player, and he had found breath work. And so he's like, do you want to hang out for the day? And I was like, hell yeah, let's hang out. He guided breath work on a beach with 40 people. I picked him up first thing in the morning at 5:30 a.m. We went for a coffee shop with those same community of 40 people. We then did a yoga class. We did a workout together. We ate some beautiful food. We went to the botanical gardens. This was in Melbourne, Australia, when he was down doing a world tour. And he turned to me and he's like, do you want to come to Bali with me and guide breathwork? And I was like, at the start, I said no, because I planned to go to Bali in June and he asked me in April. And he's like, okay, that's all good. And then we did.
World, hold on. I manifested something, but not that fast. I have my own timing, so you have to wait. I know better. That's generally what people do. They're like, I
Right.
dream about something, but I dream to have it in May,
Mm.
not in April. That's important.
Correct. And I was stuck in my head, right, of this story that I had this idea of I'm going in June. But he asked me as soon as we got into the car, and I was like, oh, well, I'm planning on going in June. But when we did this whole day together, when we were walking back to the car after the botanical gardens, I turned to him and I was like, hey, Joe, do you mind if I come to Bali with you in April? And he's like, man, I gave you that idea. What do you mean? And I was like, you're right, man. So that's where the breathwork journey really started, of guiding people worldwide. And why I bring this up is the power of intention, is to truly put out into the universe what you truly desire, what comes from the heart. And we started off in Sydney together. We guided 50 souls in Sydney. Then we came to Nirvana here in Bali and taught at a studio. There was 700 people there. And then that was over 5 weeks. And then I continued on with Joe. We went to LA. We hosted a retreat in Costa Rica. We went to Canada. And that was like the apprenticeship period for me. As I touched on before, I wasn't fully confident in guiding breathwork and holding that space for others. But after being mentored by Joe, seeing what's truly possible, it gave me the confidence and belief, and I moved in from the apprenticeship period to I'm qualified to do this. And that's just based off the reps that you put in, is what I found. It's like consistency is the name of the game.
Yeah.
We can't expect to be good at the thing straight away. We have to suck at it before we get better at it. An analogy I like to use is we have to eat shit before we eat steak.
Delicious. But I would say no certification, no education will give you the right to guide anyone else until you got your own journey first and until you got your hours. Like your hours are really practicing the skill. You put the hours in, that's what gives you that right. That's what gives you that confidence. Other than that, I know people who's just been stuck of receiving more and more certifications, more and more additional educations. Like you probably know people like much older than us who learned everything possible that you could learn and they still feel not competent enough. So eventually the one who will win, the one who will do the thing is that person who just believe in yourself a little bit to make a step. First step, that's the hardest one. Then you just like a snowball, just roll, and somehow you'll appear guiding 700 people to somewhere that, that you've been before. That's the most important part. You can guide someone if you've been there before.
Exactly. It's an equation that I learnt, and it's called knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. So yes, we can do all the courses and study all the books and gain all the knowledge, But if that knowledge isn't applied through experience, then it will never equal wisdom. It's just this analysis paralysis that we can get ourselves into and not actually taking action on what we're learning about. And so the experience element is so vital because we learn through putting in the reps and doing. And eventually you have the confidence and the belief in yourself to then be able to share with others around me. Others around you. And that just can also just be through an inspiring conversation like this, right? That we're sharing right now. It doesn't need to be like, oh, I'm teaching someone something. It could just be I'm sharing a beautiful, authentic conversation with someone that gave me some positive energy.
Yeah. But in this case, for example, and for everyone who's listening podcasts and thinking, I'm going to listen to podcasts, I'm going to become so fucking smart. Wow, I'm going to gather all this knowledge. It actually not doesn't work like that. If you hear something that you're like, wow, this is cool, this is smart, I love it, take the knowledge, use it. Straight away, use it. This is like the way for you to take it from just information that you know into a practical skill and tool that you can use in the future. For example, the breath work that we started in the beginning of this episode, this is something that I'm going to do when I will come back home with my clients straight away because I have such enough tools. And once I will do that, it will become my skill, my tool. Something that I tried once, so my body already remembers how to do that. Same with the knowledge. Whatever smart stuff you hear, if you don't put it into the practice, you will forget it. That's how our brain works. It just throws away all the information that we didn't use, like an old clothes that we never wear. It's just unnecessary. So if you heard something, saw something, tried something, and you want it to become your tool, your skill, take it and transform it from the knowledge to the skill into practicing, through practicing.
Love it.
I know it's genius.
Love it. Very wise words of wisdom there.
But that's why we're here, just sharing the words of wisdom. But coming back to the Wolf of Wall Street period, because that's also a period that many people find themselves in. That's also, I found this similar period lots of successful people used to have, because when you have this like type A personality, overachieving personality, you're like you going all into everything, addictions as well, partying as well, drugs as well, this kind of stuff. How do you think for someone who's in that era of their life, doing their 9 to 5 or business, doing a good job, but also having weekends like literally in self-destruction, just mixing this being a good boy, good person part and just like going all in on the weekends into self-destructive behavior. First of all, why? And second of all, how to get out of this cycle.
It makes me think of two things. Number one is it makes me think of how lost I was as a person when I was in that state. I had no idea. I was just moving through the motions of life. Yeah. So, number one, I was just unaware. So, I couldn't actually make the conscious change to experience a different reality because, number one, I didn't have the right foundation of awareness. So, if you have that sense of awareness and you're like, okay, I don't want to currently be living the life that I'm living and I want to intentionally change to experience a different reality. I'm going to share a framework with a mentor that was transformational for me. And it goes back to the book, if anyone's heard of IKIGAI.
Yeah.
But it's what am I interested in? What am I passionate about? And how can I serve the world through that? So you get clear on, I wrote down 10 things, what I was interested in. I wrote 10 things of what I genuinely thought I was good at. And then I was like, okay, from these two, what can I do then to actually be able to be of service to the world? How can I translate that? For me, it was actually starting a podcast. It didn't last long.
It's not an easy thing to do.
It's hard. It's very hard. But that made me get clearer on number one, the awareness of what I actually like doing, what I'm passionate about, what I'm good at. Sometimes we forget about we have such beautiful gifts and talents within us. We just need to ask ourselves the question, what am I good at? Oh, okay, write down a few things. I feel like I'm good at that. We know ourselves the best. It's so much part of my life. I felt like other people knew me better than I knew myself. And so it was this unlearning to relearn. I needed to forget and let go of really the perceptions that I had of other people about myself and actually look inwards and ask myself questions. And this is where journaling comes really into play. A framework that's really helped me with journaling and finding clarity is 3 questions. What is going on? Write down what is going on. From this, okay, uh, what now? Okay.
What do you mean by but what now?
So it's what is going on is basically sorry, 3 questions. What is going on? What does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's
Give me
like,
an example.
okay. So we'll use
Like some overthinking thought, like maybe this person is angry with me because I said something on our meeting or whatever people overthink about. Maybe world doesn't love me because I'm broke and sad.
so it could be a situation that you're having with a friend, for example. You're like, what is going on? Okay. Um, I'm experiencing this relationship with a partner, and uh, we are getting along really well, but I feel like I'm not being heard in the situation. That's what is going on. Then, if we dive deeper on into um, what is happening, I've got 3 questions now.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does this mean? What does this mean? Okay, I'm not feeling heard. So I need to then open up a conversation with this person that I'm seeing and express how I truly feel.
Mm-hmm.
And what now? Okay, now I know that that's what I need to do moving forward. How is this now going to help me with finding that clarity within the situation and helping me be more content with myself?
Mm-hmm.
So those 3 questions really help me with identifying what is happening in my world and then what I can actually do moving forward to take the right action to experience the reality that I'm looking for.
I love it. That's good questions. I feel like journaling is something that everyone should do at least once a day, just to unload all of the thoughts that you have in your head on a piece of paper and like cleaning your mind. Really, that's a practice I love myself. I do this every day for years already in different schemes. I switch them time to time, but it's just not only for overthinkers, but generally for people who want to clean up some mess in their head. Journaling is the best tool so far. Um, One of the questions also that I wanted to ask is, when you started the journey with the breath work, you were lucky enough to see the whole movie scene in your head during ayahuasca. Like, I'm doing this with this people. That's exactly like what I need to do. And you felt this feeling of purpose. Lots of people, when they find their purpose, is so vague that it's really hard to understand what exactly you need to do. For example, my purpose is just to bring people to their highest potential. I can do this through like dozen different ways, using dozen different skills that I have. What would be your advice, maybe, or some thoughts that you could share with people who feel like I found something that I really love doing? I found something that seems like my purpose. How to get more clear on it, how to navigate yourself, how to manifest maybe with the universe.
I think the how actually never makes sense. We can never connect the dots looking forward. We can never, go into the future and actually be able to figure out exactly how we need to go about things. That's God's work. That's the universe work. That's whoever you believe in, the higher powers type work. all we can do is focus on the present moment and make small incremental progress into what feels good for us. So what I would say is follow your heart. If you have this feeling within yourself that this feels good, whatever that thing is, um, it might even be starting up a podcast because you just want to put yourself out there, and it's not only going to better the lives of other humans, but also better your life as well. And then that might serve you for a specific time or chapter in your life. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I've learnt skills and I've gained experience from that thing. Now I'm going to continue moving forward into this other thing. Is like, okay, I've got a deep desire to move into photography or videography. And, you know, I've gained all my communication skills that I have from the podcast. Now I can move and actually use that when I'm connecting with other people to find more work within that space as well. So I feel like each chapter that you move through in your life will serve a purpose. And you gain experience, you gain knowledge, you gain connections, you gain so much from those experiences that you take on in your journey, and you're happy and you're grateful for that. And that can serve you then moving forward in your life. And the picture becomes clearer and clearer and clearer.
Can you tell me then the lessons that you learned throughout your chapters? Just one word. The chapter of school, the chapter of down at the bottom, the chapter of Wolf of the Wall Street sales. Now, this chapter, we don't know the lesson yet because you're right in the middle of it. But 3 chapters that you already been through. What was the lessons of them?
The lessons of school was believe in yourself, trust yourself, have faith in yourself. The lessons from Wolf of Wall Street 18 to 22 was don't be guided by others, guide yourself. Keep pouring into yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And eventually, something will happen. Which then brings me to that something will happen. And I've been fortunate enough to now not only help myself, but others with overcoming asthma through breathwork, which has been phenomenal. It's even surprised me because I thought that, yes, I was able to do this for myself, but then to be able to do it for others is like, it blows my mind. And when I started diving into the science behind breathwork, and I would love to share a little bit for your audience, because this is not just for people that suffer with asthma. This is for people that want to experience longevity in their life.
Mhm.
So 90% of the population are overbreathing. They're breathing too much. And what this is doing is leaving people in a stressed state because our sympathetic system, our fight or flight state, gets activated. We breathe a lot. We breathe in and out of our mouth. We breathe in through our chest. And we live in a state of stress. And as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, living in a state of stress is like living in survival constantly. And so it's this process of breathing in and out of our nose, because the nose, it warms, humidifies, filters the incoming air. It activates our diaphragm, which is our main breathing muscle. When our diaphragm is activated, we can take deep, intentional, easy breaths. And it activates our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest state. So when this is activated, we can move through life in a more calm and relaxed way, right? We can make more effective decisions in our life. And the example I like to use with my clients is, how many times does a dog breathe? A lot of freaking times, right? And how long does a dog live to? 12 years, 15 years, maybe? We then have a turtle on the other hand. And a turtle breathes 5 breaths per minute,
Mm.
and a turtle can live for 150 years. So the breath, even though it can be so transformational for chronic conditions like asthma, but also to live a life of longevity, of actually breathing less, is going to help you live longer. And the optimal way to breathe is in between 6 to 8 breaths per minute. However, the average person is breathing in 14 to 16 breaths per minute. They're breathing too much. And so, again, it's this process of unlearning to relearn to live the life that we truly desire.
So slow down your breath, slow down your life. Hati hati, just careful.
Mm.
Really slowing down, letting go control, allowing things to happen. It'll make your life longer because at least it's gonna be not survival mode life. It's gonna be a life mode. I love it. That's something also that I learned recently, like a couple of years ago, that I'm trying to implement into my life as well. Is there any kind of breathing technique that you would love to give to me and other people that watching us today to slow down, to maybe let go control a little bit, and just to get back into yourself, go out of the survival mode and more like living in the moment?
Definitely. Yeah. I'll share 3 simple and easy techniques. Say, for example, you're going throughout your day and you feel heightened. You've got a lot of work on at the moment and you want to come back into balance. What I want you to do is breathe in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. This will help you come back into balance.
I'm gonna be practicing like straight away. You talking, I'm practicing.
Okay.
Okay, in and out for 5 seconds.
In through the nose, out of the nose. In for 5 and out for 5. And if we go in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I already feel high.
Now we're going to go in for relaxation, okay? So we're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 6, and I'll count you in. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we want, so that's for relaxation,
I feel very slow.
very relaxation, very relaxed. Now we're going to increase energy, okay? So we're going to activate that sympathetic system for motivation, for drive. So we're going to breathe in for 6 and out for 4, starting together in 3, 2, 1. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And out, 2, 3, 4. And in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And out, 2, 3, 4. If you do that for 5 minutes, each of those techniques for balance, for relaxation, or for energy, those are 3 simple and easy techniques, and that's all you really need to know to learn breathwork.
That's amazing. They're just like really life changing because I do this pretty much every day when I meditate in the morning. But when you do this with a purpose, when you really understand how like 6 in the beginning, 4 in the end, or 4, then 6 change the whole thing, change the whole purpose of the breath, that's the little details that you actually have to learn. I love it. Well, I thank you very much for today's conversation. I learned something. I watched the whole movie of your life. That was so exciting. That was so embracing. I think the chapters that you've been through are amazing. I think that your journey is amazing. I feel like there's lots of things in front of you. There's just a beginning of this amazing journey ahead of you, and I'm very excited to see where it's gonna bring you.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to jump on this podcast and just share a bit about myself, my knowledge and wisdom, and hopefully the listeners on the other end can pick up a thing or two. But I would love to either connect with anyone that's listening that wants to dive deeper into, breath work, the human body, or anyone that has asthma at the moment. I'd love to share exactly what's worked for me in hopes that it can help others around me as well.
Absolutely. I will leave the links to your Instagram, to the website if you have one, just to all information. So you can find it in the description. You can definitely DM for any kind of consultation, just to share your story. And even if you're in Bali, you can come and experience it physically here, the breath work that's happening in Nirvana, I believe, right?
At the path,
At the path.
at the path. There's also a couple of retreats coming up as well. I'm going to be guiding breathwork at Mike Chang's retreat coming up in 2 weeks. And there's also a mastermind group that's coming out for entrepreneurs as well on the 6th of June. So, yeah, if that appeals to anyone, I would love to send you through the details if that resonates.
Absolutely. So hit the DM, check all the information in the description. Thank you so much for listening to us today. Thank you for coming and sharing your vulnerable story. And I'll be seeing you in the next episodes of the Butterfly Effect podcast, seeing more interesting guests, learning more things. And remember, if you really want to make it not just a knowledge, but as a tool, go and practice. Like really after this video, practice all the breath work, say the right things to the right people, surround yourself with the right people. And I really hope that you found something that you needed to hear today. Subscribe, ring the bell, write a comment, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. Bye bye.
Beautiful.
Yay!
Peace.
Peace. Ooh.
That went quick.